Good evening, Columbus community. It is Board President Adair, and I am calling the December 1st regular board business meeting of the Columbus Board of Education to order. Mr. Treasurer, will you please call the roll?
President Adair.
Present.
Ms. Beckerly.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
I'm here.
Mr. Cole.
Here.
Dr. Pierce.
Present.
Mr. Ragland.
Here.
Vice President Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Treasurer. We will now do the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a student ambassador from Lyndon McKinley STEM Academy. Ms. Allen, go ahead and turn your camera on. And we want to welcome you to the meeting. If you'd like to kind of say hello before leading us in the pledge and let us know how you're doing, that would be great. So welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Milga Allen. I'm a junior at Lyndon McKinley High School. I am so happy to be able to join this meeting with y'all. I hope everyone is having a great day.
Excellent. We hope you're having a great day too. Go ahead.
Flag of the United States
of America, to the republic for which it stands,
to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Allen. It's always a pleasure to have our students with us. And we are so glad that you could join us. Board members, you have the agenda for review. This evening, we do not have any board recognitions. We have no public comment. We will have a report from our superintendent, no report from the internal auditor, no report from our treasurer. We have some items on board, our board matters, and then we have our consent agenda. We will have board announcements and then adjournment. So no executive session this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about the agenda? Seeing none, please call the roll.
President Adair.
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes.
And Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you so much. As I said, we do not have any board recognition or public comment this evening. So we're going to jump right down to item 5, which is a report from our superintendent. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you, President Adair. I have several brief updates to share with the board tonight. First, since the board last met in mid-November, we've adjusted some of our district operations in response to a joint health advisory, from the City of Columbus and Franklin County, which went into effect on November 20th. Students in the career and technical education programs at Columbus Downtown High School and the Fort Hays Career Center returned to a completely remote learning model on Monday, November 23rd. The health advisory runs through December 18th, which is the district's last school day before winter break. CTE students and staff will return to blended learning on January 4th, 2021, unless the advisory is extended beyond that date. CCS also suspended all in-person interscholastic activities, athletics, and extracurricular activities through at least Friday, December 18th. The district will reevaluate winter sports seasons and provide further direction if needed later this month. And beginning this week, CCS has suspended its daily Fuel Up meal distribution offering. The district is still offering 5-day meal packs to all children 18 and under on Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 5 to 7 p.m. Families would have the choice of 2 types of 5-day meal packs: a shelf-stable meal pack that does not require refrigeration or heating, or a meal pack with fresh food or food that may require refrigeration at home. As advised by city and county health officials, we are allowing staff members the flexibility to work from home with the maximum extent possible as their positions and job duties allow, in order to help reduce exposure opportunities and provide relief for our local hospitals. I believe these measures will aid in our community's effort to slow the spread of COVID-19, while also maintaining the operations of the district and, most importantly, supporting our current learning model. Beginning tomorrow, December 2nd, our high schools will be administering fall OST end of course exams over the course of the next 7 school days. Students who need to retake exams in order to achieve scores necessary to meet graduation requirements, as well as a small number of students who are enrolled in a tested course on a block schedule that ends first semester, will come on site to take these state mandated tests. As of Monday, we have an average of 384 students per day who have registered to come in and take the OST exams across 20 high schools. The tests being administered include English Language Arts 1 and 2, Integrated Math, Algebra 1, Integrated Math 2, Geometry, Biology, American History, and American Government. Breakfast and lunch will be provided for these students, and transportation hubs will be available for students to ride a CCS yellow bus to get to and from their schools. Last month, we welcomed 1,333 third graders, or 36% of our third grade students district-wide, to our elementary school buildings to take the English Language Arts test for the third grade reading guarantee. I must commend our teachers, our principals, our staff members, administrators, and operations team for the collaborative effort in ensuring that these state required testing opportunities were available for our students. Much planning and coordination went into these testing dates to meet COVID safety standards, along with the state testing guidelines. And we did make that test optional for our students and for our parents. On the board agendas tonight is a request to waive the longstanding requirement here in Columbus City Schools that high school students must complete at least 1 credit of internship and 1 credit of technology in order to graduate. During one of my recent virtual family super sessions through the Department of Education, I heard directly from members of our class of 2021 and their families who raised questions about the requirements during this pandemic. When we've been ordered to stay at home and to avoid the type of in-person interaction this requirement is designed to build. Please know that we do not take this request to waive a graduation requirement lightly. It's there for a reason, but I appreciate hearing directly from our families and our seniors on this very real difficulty in meeting this requirement for this school year. And so I asked for the board's consideration to waive this requirement for students graduating in the class of 2021. And I look forward to my next virtual family super session to hear directly from our students and our families and staff and our partners. We have another one scheduled for next Thursday, December 10th. And finally, the Board of Education is also being asked to approve the resolution to rename the former Dominion Middle School building at 330 East Dominion Boulevard as the new World Language Middle School. Scheduled to open for the start of the 21-22 school year. This school would be a home to the district's new dual language immersion and English learner middle school for students in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. These students will feed into the school from Columbus Spanish Immersion Academy and Ecole Kenwood, and will also include Columbus Global Academy students. Once the new middle school was open, CSIA and Ecole Kenwood will return to serving students in pre-K through 5. Renovation work on the buildings at East Dominion Boulevard began this summer when the current Dominion Middle School staff moved out of the former Columbus North International Building. Dominion Middle School is now located at 100 East Arcadia Avenue. And we're looking forward to opening the new World Language Middle School next year. A cross-departmental team has been planning this school and the academic programming for months. Principal Sandra Sotos, who's here, she's going to speak in just a second, has also started a steering committee comprised of a diverse group of stakeholders to further develop and define the school's mission and vision. I look forward to sharing more about this exciting opportunities for our students in the coming months. And at this time, if we can have the new principal, Ms. Sotos, is she on? Sandra?
I am. Hello.
Yes, hi there. This is the new, doing well.
So I am very excited with the movement that we have been planning with the Region 4 Pathway administrators, as well as the steering committee, the community, students, and families. And we came up with the name by giving a survey to all stakeholders, and they decided on the name because I wanted them to begin with the opportunity of leading their school experience. So I think with them doing the name, I think that our kids are excited. Our kids are excited to pick the school colors and the mascot, and I am there to lead that. And I'm very excited that you gave me that opportunity.
Well, thank you. And board and community know you have another phenomenal leader, principal leader. She's going to do a great job with the staff, excited about the work that she's already done, and look forward to hearing more about the process. So thank you for being a leader, stepping up from leaving Mifflin High School and having this wonderful opportunity. We're so excited about your leadership and excited that the students are going to have this opportunity. So thank you. And that concludes my report for tonight, President Adair.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We do have some questions. The first will go to Board Member Beckerly.
Mine isn't a question as much as an acknowledgement, I guess. You know, we have these 3 times a week briefings with the Columbus Public Health Department. And I just wanted to commend and make sure that you, Dr. Dixon, and your staff all knew that they have expressed appreciation of our willingness to comply with the guidance, since it is just guidance. And since we know that there are schools and districts that aren't necessarily following their guidance to the letter, they have thanked you as a partner and someone who's taking their guidance seriously. So I think that we should get some credit for that, and you should get some credit for that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, it is tough when you think about the number of people that are employed by this organization. There are a lot of, you know, we have almost 10,000 adults, plus all the students that we serve. And we wanted to make sure that we were a part of the solution. And so again, thank you for the acknowledgement, and thank you for the all the team and the leaders who are making sure that we keep ourselves safe. And it is difficult. It's not easy. So I understand what other people are challenged with. We sit in our offices and we have next to us our masks for if anyone comes in, you know, we're in our offices with our mask, and we just want to make sure we're keeping our, you know, we're part of the solution. So thank you for the acknowledgement.
Thank you. Up next will be Board Member Ragland.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Madam Superintendent, for your report. My question is concerning the waiving of the graduation requirements, specifically as it relates to internships. My concern is that here again, we are eliminating a requirement for graduation for our students that will put them at a disadvantage to their peers once they get out into the workplace. I have articulated several times throughout this pandemic some of the things that I see that are different for our students, when you compare them to at least our local suburban counterparts. And one of the things that I would like to hear from you and your team tonight is what were the solutions that we attempted to come up with to provide our students with either virtual internship opportunities or something in lieu of eliminating the requirement itself. Because I think while we are in this virtual environment and we have done a very good job of making sure that the technology is in the hands of our students and our families, we also know that our business community has transitioned to a virtual environment as well. And what I am envisioning is an opportunity for our young people. Maybe they can't do place-based internships to achieve that requirement, but they could do virtual internships or some sort of virtual program in partnership with our community. Is that something that we tried to do? Is that something that we went to the corporate community and those that have traditionally provided internships for our students in the past to at least brainstorm about before we go as far as just eliminating the graduation requirement?
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Ragland. That's a great question, and I begin and I'll let some of my team members chime in. So part of it is the number of students that need it, and then a number of places that will allow students to do virtual internships. Our students, we know, would love to have the hands-on component, and businesses who have been partnering with us to provide other services like tutoring. They've opened up their opportunities for our learning extension centers, and we're partnering with having a number of students providing that experience in a virtual manner has been complicated for many of our leaders to get done for our students. So it is a challenge for us. And that was the reason that the parents and the students were asking. They want these opportunities to happen. The students want these opportunities, but I think we have to remind ourselves that it is a pandemic, and that to open up businesses for as many students that we have in our district is a lot, and then finding capacity for that to happen for as many students is a challenge too. And so we thought it would be best to relax that requirement for our students this year. Not that we want our students to have the experience. I totally agree with you. We want our students to have the experience. How many business partners said yes or no? I don't have that information, but I will let one of my other team members chime in too about what they've done. Dr. Breeden?
Yes, that was very well said, Superintendent Dixon. We know that we are having difficulty finding enough to guarantee that we could extend that opportunity to everyone. And so you have a requirement out there that maybe you can't do the administrative part, and then students wouldn't be able to meet it because you can't find enough internships. I did have some firsthand experience with this, and a business was going to take some interns, and then as things changed and more people got in COVID, they backed off, and there's just too much uncertainty to make it a requirement at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Breeden.
And thank you both for that response. I believe that my thoughts now turn to my colleagues. So what we've heard here is that the size of our district here again puts students who are in many ways already disenfranchised at a disadvantage when it comes to workforce development that would enable them to have a leg forward in obtaining a job upon graduation. One of the things that I would like to see from us as leaders is a commitment to going to our corporate community along with other interested parties, including our mayor and our other elected officials, in saying to our corporate leaders, if you understand the challenges of our district and you limit the opportunity for our students to come in and get workforce development experience with you, we need to come up with a comprehensive program that allows for an earlier opportunity for our students to attain more workforce development opportunities, so that we're not just looking at a high school snapshot, but maybe something that is inclusive of middle school students, so that there's some longevity to the workforce development opportunity, as well as a bit more of a commitment from our corporate partners, especially, to work with us on what are the skills that our students need to have so that they can attain entry-level jobs upon graduation with the corporations that we are working with. I am gravely concerned that while our size limits our opportunities here, some of the smaller districts with, in many cases, larger schools than we might have on a one-to-one basis are still providing these opportunities for their young people. And then when our young people come in and they want to apply for an entry-level job, and someone from the suburban district comes in and they want to apply for the job, that this type of grace that we are showing in eliminating this requirement for graduation will be used against our young people. And so I am willing to go to our corporate partners, and I would hope that my colleagues would either help generate some ideas along that, so that we can continue to address this issue. Because for me, this is not just a COVID problem. Yes, it's being articulated now because of the crisis that we are in. And I think Dr. Breeden and Dr. Dixon have done a good job of explaining the why, but I think this problem transcends this current snapshot. And I'd like to hear from you all about what your thoughts are on that. I did see you, Board Member Brown, with the thumbs up. And so, we will have that discussion. So thank you for that. But I would like to hear from my colleagues on that point specifically. Thank you, Madam President. And thank you again, Dr. Breeden and Dr. Dixon.
There are a few comments from board members.
Yes, ma'am.
They want to respond to you, so I will let that. I think that you're right, James, in terms of in general, making sure that our students have the best opportunities possible. And I think there can always be more work with all of our partners, including not just corporate, but including nonprofits and state government and local government. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that we could work on for our kids. I think, though, in the middle of a pandemic, it is appropriate to waive this requirement right now. But I think your discussion is right on about how do we strengthen this program and opportunity for our students. Let's see, who is first? Board Member Beckerly is first, then Dr. Pierce, and then Ramona. I'm sorry, Vice President Reyes.
Well, President Adair just said just about everything I was going to say. Although it may have changed since I taught high school, I think that James's point is well taken, that meaningful internship opportunities should be a priority, but I think that's to be distinguished from waiving the waiving the internship requirement during the pandemic, and I entirely support that. And I think that was completely justified. And I don't think really it's probably going to impact our graduates as in any significant way. But I think, James, I would be happy to join, to create or join forces and head up an ad hoc working group, any kind of a committee, or a temporary committee, whatever we want to call it, to look into this and provide some guidance and maybe create a structure. So please count me in.
Thank you. Dr. Pierce?
So thank you, President Adair. To my colleagues, I definitely commend you both for taking charge around this issue. But let me just raise a concern on a different level. Coming from a working class family and still being a member of a working class family, what I know is that I see my younger cousins who are Columbus City School students going to work instead of necessarily going to class. And so for me, the concern isn't necessarily around the internship opportunities. Now, don't get me wrong, internship opportunities are important. And I commend, again, us coming together to look at ways that we can make sure that we are providing our students with opportunities for internships. But during this time of national pandemic, during this time when we are not seeing our students in buildings, during this time when our students who are of working age are making the decision to go to work, to help their families put food on the table, to help their families pay rent, I'm concerned about, are we capturing those students that are choosing to go to work instead of clocking in, coming into the classroom and putting in the work that needs to be done? So while we can come together to make efforts, again, to move forward and establish collaborative relationships with both the private, nonprofit, local government sectors to, again, expand our internship opportunities, we need to have a real conversation around equity. And how is this pandemic affecting the success of our students who are, again, choosing to go to work over coming into the classroom?
Thank you, President Adair. Thank you, Dr. Pierce. I wasn't going to comment it. I said it. One of my other colleagues also stated the same. I'm in agreement with you. I've had a couple of students. We have a couple interns in my organization who are very worried about the same thing, about having to come to our organization and quote unquote volunteer or do their part as school versus going out and assisting their parents when their parents had recently been laid off, and that was needed. I also will speak on the other side from an employer perspective. With the COVID, many people working remotely, many organizations also seeing limited clients. It is very difficult to find work experience or projects or activities that would be beneficial to the growth and learning of a student. Our organization has high school students, we have college students that intern with us, we have community health workers that intern with us, so we have a variety of different internship opportunities within our organization. And unfortunately, due to COVID, due to the limited resources, due to the fact that we are in a virtual environment, it's been very difficult for us to find opportunities for our students. So a lot of things that we have discussed is whether we can do one-on-ones with our students and talk about what is a typical day of a social worker, of a administrative assistant, a coordinator, a case manager, a director. So we have had those types of conversations about, a lot of times we send our students to panels. It's very difficult to get professional experience when you're trying to get feedback from 4 or 5 people within an hour. Or you're doing these speed dating that I've seen in other organizations do. that would be my suggestion is if we can do those things, perhaps, and we know that this virus may be around for a while. I don't want to predict what next school year looks like, but as we, as we have already done through Dr. Dixon and the administration, we have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. If we can't do this, let's do this. If we can't do that, go this. But I also want to make sure that as we make these plans, though we are thinking and focusing on our children, which should be our number one concern and our number one impact, I would also say, let's look at solutions that do not stretch the resources of already stretched organizations, companies, and people. We have many employees that would jump at the chance to help our students, but they are also going through the same thing everybody else is going through. They have a member of their family who has struggled through COVID or is also lost a job. And there's a lot of stress, mental health, and other issues that are currently going on within our workforce and our companies. So I want to make sure as we develop whatever our solution is going to be to ensure that our children are getting the skill sets and background and information that they need in order to transition to the workforce. I think even now more than ever, I have a senior in my house who I'm wondering where, well, if a senior decides not to go to college, if a senior decides not to go to the military and wants to start a career, where will they lag behind as a senior trying to go into the workforce if they don't have that experience? So that's my opinion on making sure that we keep all parties involved in the program as we move forward.
Thank you, Vice President Reyes. Board Member Cole, did you want to address Board Member Ragland on this?
Yes, very briefly. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Ragland, for making those comments about ensuring opportunity for our youngsters. I think one of the things I want to definitely reiterate, first and foremost, is that our students still have to focus on their primary aim, which is to complete their schoolwork and prepare themselves to be able to graduate, first and foremost. And there are significant challenges in that alone on a day-to-day, keeping students engaged, making sure that they're completing their classwork, and seeing them successful during this really tough time during COVID, them and their families. So where the suspension of the internship hours to me is appropriate, I do want to make sure that those who are watching and my colleagues at the table understand the first and most foremost priority is that these students are daily preparing by accomplishing their schoolwork for graduation. They're running the marathon daily to that effect. Secondly is this piece. The district offers some very unique resources, some of which end up as course curriculum. But, and I love the way that Ramona demonstrated comments through speaking in the voice of an employer. I'll do the same. When this is a workforce time where folks can be upskilling and training towards some credential that also supplements their learning. So I'm going to kind of hit two birds with one stone with Dr. Dixon. Dr. Dixon, I think a supplementary opportunity for our students is to give them the opportunity to have access, greater access to certifications, credentials that they can acquire that make them workforce ready. Maybe right now, as they're missing the opportunity that they would otherwise get through the 120 hours of community service and or internship, because they are the same thing, just so we all know. They can actually be upskilling or doing some other things that better prepare them for the workforce, whether that is Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office is now offered by the district as a curriculum. My own kid took it. But I think that there's opportunity maybe to grow and expand on that. If there are other open doors within the tech field that we can make available, and there's certainly community partnerships where that can happen.
But I think it's super important that we now take this time to train up and upskill students and even their families, if at all possible, in these workforce elements of, things in the tech field or elsewhere that we know are needed by employers when this economy begins to pick up a bit more. So Doc Dixon, I would love it if we can learn a little bit more about what supplements can be made on the part of the workforce side of encouraging student growth that way. With that in mind, I want to kind of close with this idea too, is that I think we have to see the opportunity of using chances to make champions with our kids. I, for one, this is where I don't necessarily totally agree. I, for one, don't always want to look at things from a deficit mindset. And if I do, all it means is that you're in for a hell of a fight. I'll just be very honest with you. If I'm intimidated, if I'm afraid, if there's something going on that I feel like I got no control over, but my back is against the wall, then I'm gonna fight. So what I'm asking everybody else to do is do that same thing. Don't see it as a deficit. Don't see it as I'm in a hole in the ground. Don't see it as a situation of, being behind. Let's see it as a situation that strengthens us and fortifies us to move forward. I think this is a heck of an opportunity that COVID has accelerated in certain ways, the necessity for staying on point with school, for staying on point with learning more and being more engaged. And I'm challenging our teachers to continue to focus on driving success to our kids by paying attention, by responding to their parents when they call you or email. When our students are falling behind and you know it, that we're giving a call, that we're following up. So I see this as a chances makes champions type situation, and I'm definitely in agreement with that. And final, I am super excited as a former parent of two students who were Cole Kenwood students, one of whom came from kindergarten all the way up through high school, 12th grade. I'm super excited for our families who will now have the opportunity to have a middle school that their children can be conduited to and further cultivate their language, their lingua franca skills. So I'm really excited and thankful for that. Dr. Dixon and team, this is a legacy moment. My colleagues, this is a legacy moment for us all. It really is. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. Lots of great points there, especially around that credentialing, because we know that's also a pathway to graduation. I sat in and listened to one of the sessions our engagement team did, and that is actually one of the ways we know that many of our students will need. So, encouraging that and making sure people and our families and our students know that that's an option is great. All right, up next is Board Member Brown to address Board Member Ragland.
Thank you. What I wanted to do is keep this brief. I want to thank James Ragland for bringing this up and for asking the questions. I think it's important, and I think that there is more we can do. But I agree with nearly everything that's been said. And the important thing is that whatever assistance we provide, it should be a matter of assisting our professional educators. And we need to work directly with them rather than for us to go out on our own and try to drum up businesses and convince them to participate with us in creating internships. I think we need to understand better what our education program wants and needs and how we can help with that. Beyond that, I agree with Ramona saying that these internships need to be educational, not just here's some work. Lots of employers, and I I guess didn't hire, but took lots of interns over time in quite a few of my positions. And it's tough sometimes to make meaningful work for somebody who comes in an internship or an externship, rather than say, here, go in the corner and file these or count these or something else. And we need to make sure we understand that as we go forward with this effort. Thank you.
That's a really good point, Board Member Brown. At one point when I was doing HR work, working with interns, we actually developed a curriculum for interns because we took it as a teaching opportunity as the employer. So it wasn't just go sit in the cube and do admin work. It was really a built curriculum, and that might be something businesses and employers could be interested in, so that we're all getting what we need out of a program. So Good point. Okay, so I think that addresses everyone wanted to address Board Member Ragland's question. Okay, so we're going to head back to now the list that I was doing for Dr. Dixon. And so up next on that list is Dr. Pierce.
I think you cut out a little bit, Board President Adair. Was I next?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you are next.
Excellent. All right, Dr. Dixon. Welcome back from, our harvest holiday.
Yes, thank you. Good to be back.
Awesome. Hopefully you had a restful holiday.
Yes.
Along with our other families, administrators. So my first question is, how many and what percentage of our seniors and their designated caregivers have signed their graduation plans?
I don't know, but I can get that information for you to send that. And just as a reminder, just don't forget, please send me those questions so I can have those ready those answers ready for you tonight. But if you could send that to me, that would be greatly appreciated. But I have that for you tomorrow.
Thank you for that reminder. That question really comes based upon my colleagues' earlier discussion around how are we really preparing our students to move into the workforce. We would not be doing justice in having this discussion and dialogue if we weren't able to then talk about how many of our seniors are prepared and ready to enter into the workforce. So do know that question comes based upon the discussion that we've just had. It's important to know where we stand with those seniors being prepared and ready. While we're speaking of that, I'm receiving a number of emails. Individuals are coming up to me and telling me that they still need their workbooks, computers, hotspots. Can you take a moment to speak to those families that still may need workbooks, still may need supplies? I mean, we're halfway into the school year. Who can they contact?
Yeah,
where can they get the supplies?
Thank you. If students don't have their supplies and it's December 1st, that concerns me, but they should always reach out to their building principal. Their building principal is the first point of contact. If they can't reach the building principal, but they should, they can call or send an email. It's the guidance counselor. We have computers, we have hotspots. We even have a place where parents can return, they can drop off their broken devices and get those repaired. If families still need hotspots, we have those. So the supplies that parents need, we have those. Please let us know, contact your school principal immediately so that we can get those supplies to you. Thank you for bringing that up. I am not aware of any family that needs something, even the families that are new to our district. That is part of the process, enrollment process now, that we ask those questions. They receive their Chromebooks, and we're asking about hotspots. So thank you for bringing that up.
And then my next question kind of relates to our equity issues. We are very strongly and passionately committed to equity in this district. And when I see that 36% of our students, and I understand it's voluntary, went in to complete that third grade testing, my question is, what were some of the challenges that our other families faced in getting in to complete those tests? And did we document those challenges? Are there things that we can do in the future to ensure that all of our families have an equitable opportunity for not just testing, but when we need to get them into buildings to pick up supplies, to take tests, you know, how are we dealing with that?
Thank you. So we didn't, the issue of the third grade reading guarantee was the issue of safety. You know, was it a priority for us to have students take the test, or was it a priority for us to make sure that students and families were safe? And we thought that the priority was, if families wanted their students to take the test, we provided that opportunity for them. So we surveyed families, and those family members that stated that they wanted to bring their students, they could bring their students. We had some challenges with transportation. If families needed to ride the yellow bus, we know that there are some challenges that our district face with transporting our students. We have a requirement. We have to transport our charter non-public students. They've been back since the beginning of the school year. But that is a challenge for us to transport our students safely. You know, we have, through our COVID guidelines, that students have to be seated, one student per bus. I mean, one student per seat on on the bus. So we didn't want to compromise having students come in, our little babies, and they've not been with us since March. And we didn't want their first introduction back to us faced with a test if that's not what the families believe was good for them. But again, our principals and our area superintendents said that when those students came in, said they were so excited. We actually had more teachers, proctors that were there than students. So I think everyone is ready for our students' return and to return safely. But we did not want to put the burden and said that this particular test, that test was a priority for us. And it was not. But we made it available to families who need it. And we did not hear of any families who wanted it and was challenged by any, at least I didn't, I don't believe the team did. But that's a very good question, but it was safety first. And the district, we have other measures, you know, we have other measures in the district to capture if our students need intervention with reading, et cetera.
So thank you so much for that, because I think it's important for our community to hear that we're being very mindful of the challenges that our families face, that we are working together with our partners to come up with solutions to ensure that our students and families have those opportunities. Again, because equity is so important to not just our board, but also to our district. My final question then brings us back to our seniors. Specifically, I mean, you know, this is the middle of the school year, and I'm gonna just be very honest with you. I know some senior babies, and they talk to me. A couple of them have told me that they rather go get their GEDs. A couple of them have told me school is hard. They're just done. Our babies are experiencing Zoom fatigue. They need a mental health day. They just need a fun, hang out, chill. Let me really experience and enjoy my senior year in some cool type of way. So indulge me for a second with these questions on my babies, my seniors. Please respond or share the efforts that you're taking to ensure that, one, our seniors are attending. So they're checking in, their attendance is in order. And then share the efforts that we're taking to ensure that they're engaged in their schoolwork, so that they're actually going to complete classes and capture the credits that they need to graduate. So it's how many are attending, and then, you know, how many are engaged, and what are we doing around that senior engagement piece?
Okay, thank you. Let me, so, well, I'll start, and then I have my colleagues can chime in. I don't have those attendance numbers with me again, But I would have those if I just would please get these questions to me prior. But it is important that our students graduate. We know that. We're in a pandemic. We understand that. We are not in an ideal situation. We want to be face-to-face with our students. And to your point, I've had students too, my ambassadors, who have said, Dr. Dixon, we want to be back in school. We can't wait to go back to school. We know that some of our students are not engaged. I've talked to our leaders, our principals, to make sure, are we reaching out to our students? Are our guidance counselors reaching out? Our social workers? We have students that are being challenged in so many different ways. And so we're making sure that every building has a strategy to reaching out to their students. Every single building has a strategy, and every building principal is articulating that strategy with their seniors and with their families. So I'm really proud of what the building principals are doing with that. The number of students that we're seeing that are not engaged and not participating, we've been transparent. I've been transparent about that. We do have some students that are not engaged because they have some other challenges. I had a student, you may have seen an article on ABC on your side where we had one of our ambassadors. He sent me an email and said, Dr. Dixon, can I reach out and do something to motivate our students? What do you think about that? I said, Dijon, absolutely, you do that. And he did. And they highlighted him on ABC News. And we understand that. We understand that our students want a year that they believe is a normal year, but unfortunately, they're not going to get a normal year. And we're doing everything, and we could do more. I'm not here to say that we're doing everything perfectly. We are learning more and more about the situations that our families in, situations that our students are facing. A story real quick that was shared with me today by Dr. Chapman was that a principal found out that the student has 4 siblings. And those 4 siblings, he has to help get them up in the morning, get them on their Chromebooks, get them on their individual platforms, and get them started. And then he gets started. That's real, right? So we're talking about our students still being able to master the content, get themselves ready for their senior year. Their parents are working. But yet they have this responsibility that's real. So those stories are what's causing us to sit back and think about, wow, what is it like to be in their shoes? Have we thought about every single thing? And as we learn more information, that's why I brought to you about the internships. There were students that were saying, Superintendent, how can we get this done? So to your point, school buildings are doing a lot. If they need to do more, we will do more. As we learn more, we will change those plans. And then I'll have some other colleagues. I know Dr. Chapman is on, and Dr. Breeding. If you two can feel free to chime in to let our families know and let our board members know some other things that are happening with our specific to our seniors.
One of the things that I thought of, and it's really it's not quite as specific for seniors probably, but it includes seniors, is we are asking the teachers to make personal contact with students who are failing and to work with them. Just, for example, the story that Dr. Dixon just gave, why haven't you completed your work? Tell me what's going on. Let me work with you in your particular circumstances. I know I heard a teacher last week that says she has a student who she can see her 4-year-old sister sitting in the student's lap during biology class, and then she'll do really well for 3 or 4 days, and then she'll just disappear. because she has the challenges of, looking after the older students. So we want those teachers to make that individual one-on-one contact and help them improve their grades so they will be sure to pass the courses they need for their high school diploma.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Breeden. And I know Dr. Chapman to speak too, but also I know engagement, she's not on, I think, because they have a session that's happening right now. So she is not on to give us some of the highlights of what's happening in her office. But Dr. Chapman?
Yes, Dr. Dixon, I was going to share a little bit about the partnership that we've been working with the Office of Engagement to rally all of our partners to wrap their arms around and support our seniors. So they are working with our high schools, all of our high schools, and developed plans for all of our seniors. We have senior meetings and we have mapped the partners with seniors so that they can reach out to them, encourage them, help them stay connected, help them stay engaged, identify any barriers that are impeding their ability to either access the content, engage with instruction, and make sure that they have the resources that they need. We are also strategically identifying ninth graders who may not be as engaged, because remember, our ninth graders are new to the high school community and they're starting the school year in high school virtually. So certainly not the typical transition that we want for our ninth graders, but we are identifying the students that may need extra support, extra love, and reaching out to them by targeting the outreach and engagement and connecting them. So for example, if they had most cases, they had positive relationships with their middle school, we're engaging and collaborating across campuses to ensure that the students have the network of support that they were used to when they were in the middle school, so that they can feel connected to their high school community, which they haven't stepped foot on campus yet. But we are certainly continuing to support all of our students and thinking about every day, we think about how can we reach out and engage our students in more meaningful ways? Who else can we reach out to join us in this effort? And so we'd like to say to everyone, if you would like to support us in this cause, this is an opportunity and a moment for all of us. We need all hands on deck to make sure that we are making those connections with our students and keeping them engaged. This is a heavy lift right now because we're continuing in the remote learning environment, but we certainly welcome the support of our partners and community members who would like to join us in that effort.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chapman and Dr. Breeden. Again, it's a team effort and people coming together across the departments, making sure that our students have what they need. And we're learning more through each week. We're learning more information and how we can help students differently. And every challenge is interesting, but we're learning more about our students than we've ever known. And I think teachers are learning more about what our students are facing. And we are learning more about how we have to change our systems and our approach to helping families and students in a very different way.
Dr. Dixon, thank you. And thank you to your team. I know sometimes I do ask the tough questions and you all don't get these questions in advance. So you have to literally come to the table prepared with the information. But what I hope our community was able to see tonight is that while your administration has brought legislation forward to change some of our graduation requirements, given the national pandemic that we are dealing with, that our district, your team is committed to ensuring that our students have the resources. The partners are wrapping their arms around them to provide them with those resources. That our mission is to ensure that our students are learning and ready for the workforce, for the military, if they're going to start their own jobs or advance to college. So the framing of this conversation is far just beyond us taking action tonight on internship requirements. We're still doing the very hard, tough work at hand, and that is ensuring that our students are highly educated and ready to be successful no matter what avenue or path they take. So thank you to Dr. Dixon and your team for answering my questions for me.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. Next up is Board Member Cole. I didn't know if you had additional questions.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to reiterate the importance of supplemental education during this time that's more workforce oriented. I think that's a unique and opportunity for us to be entrepreneurial with our students and help them think out of the box and prepare them. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will go to Board Member Ragland.
Thank you, Madam President. So you mentioned transportation as one of the challenges, major challenges that we are facing in any type of return back to in-person learning. I have recently begun driving again, and so it's allowed me to get back into the streets and see what is going on in some other schools throughout the state and throughout our local area. Students are arriving at many schools in full buses. And one of the things that I would like for you to consider, if you have not done this already, is going to our partners at Columbus Public Health and Franklin County Public Health Departments and asking them to reevaluate their transportation guidance based on the data sets that are out there at this time. I know that we have had this suggestion, requirement, not necessarily a requirement, but guidance that we have pretty much adhered to that talked about the spacing that we need to have on our buses. However, what I am seeing are students arriving in other schools in full buses. Now they do have some other things that they're doing on the bus. I think many of those, well, some of those buses do have, plexiglass shields for their drivers and hand sanitation stations, and students are required to wear masks. Now, whether or not they do for the entire bus ride is something completely different. However, if the data, if we do have updated data based on what's happening in some of the other areas around the county, around the state, around the nation, about the number of students that can be on a bus, I think it would be good for me to hear as up-to-date information from our health partners as we can possibly get. Now, you may have already done that, and I'm not sure, but it seems as if we're going by the same guidance that we were given when we first heard about transportation guidance. And if that's something that we can do, I think it may help us in our discussion about bringing students back inside our buildings as safely and as quickly as possible, because I think a lot of what you've articulated, having students back in the building would help alleviate many of those problems that we are facing in this completely environment. So if you haven't, please take that as a suggestion. If you have, I'd like for you to please share that data with us at the next opportunity to speak before it, if possible.
Thank you. I would definitely bring that information forward, but I will at the next meeting, but I will remind us that remember it was one student every other seat guidance when we first started. And then Columbus Public Health did make some changes and say it could be one student per seat. The challenge for Columbus, though, just as a reminder, is that students should have their PPE, their mask, and they should be socially distanced, but that for a 15-minute period. And so our students are traveling on our school buses longer than the 15-minute period. So that is a challenge for us. And Columbus Public Health at this time are not going to, change that guidance to allow more than one student per seat on the bus because of that 15-minute window So that is a health guidance that we definitely, now other students, I'm not sure what's happening when other districts, they've made different decisions, perhaps their students are not on their school buses as long as ours. But, we decided, we're open enrollment district, so our students get to make choices, and their bus rides are longer. But as I learn some more information, I will bring that back. Thank you.
And thank you for bringing the length of the bus ride to the forefront in this discussion, because that is not something that I believe that the general public really kind of understands. We have students, due to our open enrollment policy, that can come from the far southeast side of town and attend school in the far northwest side of town. And even though traffic has been alleviated, it has not been eliminated. And those bus rides are much longer than just going from one side of the city of Westerville to the other. And so, we cannot always have apples to apples comparisons about the practices of some of our suburban districts, at least locally, but oftentimes that is where a lot of the angst that we hear from our general public comes from, because they see what is happening in Gahanna, they see what's happening in Hilliard, and they say, well, if they're doing it, why can't you do it? And you are exactly right. The length of our bus rides are much longer for our young people. And so that has to be taken into account. Thank you for that. And I would appreciate the data update whenever you can get it back to us. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. Dr. Dixon, I had a question for you. I didn't know if you wanted to share information about the survey that parents are being asked to take.
Yes, thank you. And then I can have Scott Wortman, are you on? Chief of Communications. Yes, Scott, do you want to kind of talk about the partnership we have to get this survey data?
Absolutely. So starting this week, we have an outside company, Saperstein Associates, who will be reaching out with a phone survey to many of our families, asking questions about their experience thus far, and then the return to blended learning to get some survey data, some professional survey data about how our families feel about the remote learning and blended learning environments. So we did send something out to families this week, giving them a heads up, so they should be expecting phone calls here in the coming weeks.
Thank you. And part of that was, we had received a lot of feedback from different stakeholders saying that they felt that maybe administration was making some decisions for our parents, and we were not being good listeners to try to see, what do our families want? Do our families want to return and blended, or do our families want to stay in remote learning? And so we stated that we needed, first we partner with a professional organization, a partner, to say, let's get some survey, let's hear directly from our families. And so we can make a decision based on using that data to make our decisions. And we're going to move and do more surveys and find out how our families are doing, how they're feeling. So thank you to our stakeholders who have challenged us to say, we want to be heard. You guys have to do a better job soliciting information from us. That was loud and clear. It was stated many times. And we are, again, we hear you, and we are doing everything possible to answer the call of our families and our students. Thank you, Scott.
Do we know, is the number, because we need people to answer the phone, right? So is the number going to look like a district number? Is it an unlisted number? How do people know that it's us and that they should really answer, and it isn't like whatever's happening with all the spam, right? The spam numbers.
Yeah, that is the challenge with phone surveys these days, is getting people to pick up. It will be a local number It will be multiple numbers based on how many people we have to call. But we did get good engagement during, they did some test surveys last week. But with the challenge of phone surveys is getting people to pick up. But once they do pick up, this is an engaging topic that our families will want to participate in.
Excellent, thank you. And I think Board Member Beckerly, did you have something on this topic, or was it something else?
And then also, before she speaks, there's one more survey that we're going to do, and that is a survey for families about transportation. So we were trying to find out is how many parents actually need for their students, really want their students to ride the bus. You know, so when we think about our transportation challenges, again, you know, idea that came from our stakeholders, our parents, to say, hey, how do you guys know we want our students to ride the bus? You know, we may be able to take our students, and that will provide a room for other students. So that survey is coming out through Infinite Campus. So we would do a message around that. Again, getting feedback from our families about what their needs, and we're not making those assumptions for our families. We're asking them. So again, thank you to our families. We hear you. And again, we're trying to make sure that we are answering your call. Thank you, Board Member Adair, for reminding me of those two pieces that we're doing. I'm sorry, Board Member Beckerly.
No problem. I just want to say that this is really exciting for like an abundance of reasons. You know, I mean, you and your administration's willing to say, oh, we need to adjust because we're getting this feedback. This is Columbus City Schools acting differently, and it's really, really exciting. You know, even just, you know, when we were doing our listening sessions for the strategic planning, we got some feedback about, you know, communicating via texting and via some of these apps and things, or the ways parents communicate now. And I noticed that we send texts out to alert families that this, you know, like we're adjusting and we're taking the feedback, and we're, you know, this is, it's really, really encouraging. I want you to know that that certainly I, for one, am noticing, and it's a shift, and it's really important. And, you know, even if we're struggling a bit, not struggling, but, you know, like, you know, we'll solve the problem of the phones not getting answered next time, because we're in this mode now of getting better and improving and figuring it out and moving on. And I just, you know, I think, and that will build relationships. I mean, we're going to have more family participation because they are going to feel that they are being heard. And I just cannot say enough how exciting this is. This is really wonderful. And then just my little plug is, at some point, if we could come up with another way to survey staff and teachers to get their input too, I think that, you know, that's every, you know, but I mean, engagement of families is huge, huge priority, and you guys are doing it, and it's only going to get better. And thank you.
Thank you. Now to Dr. Pierce.
So I too just appreciate this discussion that we're having this evening. So we've talked about transportation, graduation. Let's touch on food. I hear we're not giving milk. We're changing up some of the things that we're doing with our Fuel Up distribution of meals. Yet I'm also getting pictures that some of our families are unfortunately still getting items that are spoiled. So please take a moment to speak to how we are you know, again, responding to community needs and input when it comes to our food service.
Wow. So thank you, Dr. Pierce. That one is, we've been challenged with our, you know, meal distribution plan before, right? We heard from you, our families, that we didn't like the former plan. So we revised the plan to include more hot meals, right? But because of where we are now with this community spread, many people may have noticed we've had to close sites. We have 2 sites that are closed this week, and we had to move families to other sites. So what's happening in Columbus is affecting our employees. I mean, that's real. So we moved to this 5-day meal pack. It wasn't ideal, but however, we still wanted to meet the needs of our families. We had people who wanted to volunteer and say, hey, I want to help with distribution. But we have some challenges with the USD food service with those requirements of who can handle our food. You know, we're challenged by those, some of those requirements. But quality is our top priority. And if we are not giving quality meals, that is a concern. We've had, you know, this concern has come up before. And we've gone back to our food service team and talked to our teams and our vendors who we partner with, because this is a different model. So at the time, we didn't believe that we had the capacity to provide as many meals during this pandemic. And so we've challenged our partners to do something different. And so we'll go back again. We will go back to our partners and our team and assess and say, are we giving our families the best? And if we're not, we have to course correct, and we will do that. Right now, we're faced with this Christmas holidays. How do we provide meals for our families over the break while still making sure that we are keeping our staff safe? Those are challenges. And so we have to problem solve in the next few days to figure out what that looks like for our families during that 15-day period that schools are closed. So that is a challenge for us, that we'll figure out a way to make sure we're meeting the needs of our families too. So our families, I apologize on the behalf of the district. We do not want you to get things that are not excellent. We pride ourselves. We've been talking about Fuel Up and providing good meals. And it looks like in some areas to our meals, we're not providing good customer service. So, and we know you can't. Someone says, this is not McDonald's. You can't go back and get another cheeseburger once you got in that box home, right? So, but let us know when those items are not up to par, and we will replace those items. But again, thank you, Dr. Pierce, for bringing that up. And families, we will go back and inspect and make sure that what you are receiving is quality meals for you and your families, because we know many families depend on that. And we understand that there are many areas in Columbus that are considered food deserts. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to change our plans. And we challenged ourselves and said, if our families are depending on these meals, they have to be substantial. They have to. So just keep pushing, and we'll keep partnering and working with our partners until we get it right. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for the superintendent this evening? Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Dixon and team, for your report and the conversation. We will now move on to the Internal Auditor's Office, and we have Mr. O'Connor here with us this evening. Hello.
Good evening, President Adair. Internal Audit does not have a report tonight.
Well, it is always nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to be seen.
Thank you. We will now move on to the Treasurer's Office. Hello, Mr. Treasurer.
Good evening. Likewise, I don't have a report. A simple announcement, as some of you may know, though. With the help of Dr. Roush and Mr. Wortman in preparing some testimony, I testified before the Ohio House Finance Committee on the Fair School Funding Bill that is pending there. All the reports I've gotten, it went well. I won't do a self-evaluation, but seemed to do well. There were 4 or 5 of us that testified in person, and we're prepared to also testify before the Senate Finance Committee. I believe that is likely to be next week, but we're hoping that that bill gets through the House and can be considered in the Senate. Your resolution of support that you adopted was included with my written testimony that we filed as well. So I think the committee members listened, and we're hoping for the best. That's it from me this evening.
Thank you so much. Co-chairs of Finance Committee, do you have any announcements, anything to say?
Nothing other than next Wednesday will be our meeting starting at 4 p.m.
Thank you. All right, we will now move into board matters. Item 8.1, we have the first reading of omnibus amendments, and I will turn it over to Chair of the Policy Committee, Board Member Brown.
Thank you, Jen. And I'm glad I'm fully back with you so that I can actually do this. We have our policy review committee continues to get through lots of things, some tough, some easy, and they've been doing a great job. We have 7 policy recommendations for the board. 6 of those are Neola policy amendments, and 1 is our own. The 6 that came from Neola. First, there's policy 1520, employment of administrators, and this follows from House Bill 491, and it limits the treasurer's liability regarding confirmation of employee licensure. Now, the law requires notification of a valid license to be provided to the treasurer before an employee can be paid. The second is on evaluation of administrators. And this one simply removes references to OTES. And there's also a provision that deals with the number and timing of evaluations. Third policy is 2270 on religion in the curriculum. The General Assembly passed legislation not long ago, House Bill 164. And the new law that they've passed defines religious expression differently, more broadly, and includes virtually everything that you can imagine that somebody would consider related to religion. We are no longer permitted under the law to restrict student exercise of religion to any set time frame within the school day. The law does declare that school district may not prohibit a student from engaging in religious expression when doing their homework or artwork or any kind of assignment from the school, and the assignments then must be graded or scored using ordinary academic standards, which neither reward nor penalize a student based on the religious content. And the policy recommendation here is really to comply with the law. Then we have a policy 3124 dealing with employment contract, and it simply removes references to employment of administrators, which is covered in policy 1520, the first policy that I mentioned this evening. We've got 5230, which deals with late arrival and early dismissal. This took quite some time and a lot of discussion, and I think it's really come out well. There's some revisions that include a definition of parent for use in the policy. And importantly, it clarifies that presentation of a photo or other ID can be required of anyone, including parents, when picking up a student. Then we have another one related to House Bill 164 dealt with religion. And this pertains to religious and patriotic ceremonies and observances. And again, it just complies with the law. And you can refer back to my comments on 2270. Finally, the last policy to present for this evening is a district policy. And this one pertains to transgender and gender variant students. And we had some really good input, and we worked quite some time on this. The issue had been raised by students and families who wished to allow transgender or gender variant students to use the name and identified gender that they prefer for school purposes. The policy addresses issues of official versus unofficial records and lots of other things, and makes a distinction. If it's an official record that we have to send, for example, to the State Board of Education or Department of Education, we may be required to use student's legal name. But for purposes within the school, our own record keeping, we can allow students, and we should allow students to use what they prefer to be known and called and identified as. And last thing in this policy is that it reinforces our non-discrimination policy and practices. So all of these, all 7 of these, are presented to you for first reading. They will be back to you on December, I think it's the 15th, for second reading and adoption. If anybody has questions about any of these policies, feel free to ask now or to ask me later before we have to address them on the 15th. Mr. Roush, anything that you have to add?
No, you did a great summation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help. Any questions now? Okay, well, thank you, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about this or any of the other policies. Our committee is going to be hard at work going forward. And I would also welcome, if any of you or anybody in our listening audience has a person or two that they may want to suggest for service on this policy review committee, please forward me the names. We do have one vacancy at the moment, and we may have some others, and it's time for us to look for more quality people. We've got a really wonderful group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yes, thank you to all the volunteers on the policy committee and all of our committees. We can't do it without you. So that constitutes the first reading. And as Board Member Brown said, we will get it back at our next meeting. So board members, if you take some time to read them and you have any questions or something you would like to add, please put that in writing. Make sure Board Member Brown and Dr. Roush are copied on that. We will now move to item 8.2, resolution to rename the building at 330 East Dominion Boulevard, formerly known as Dominion Middle School. And I'm going to turn this over to Board Member Beckerly, who will read the resolution.
Thank you, President Adair. This is the resolution's title is Resolution to rename the building at 350 East Dominion Boulevard, formerly known as Dominion Middle School, whereas Board Policy 7250 authorizes school buildings to be given descriptive names in appropriate circumstances. And whereas the building at 350 30 East Dominion Boulevard, Columbus, Ohio, 43214, formerly known as Dominion Middle School, will house the district's new dual language immersion and English learner middle school. And whereas the name World Language Middle School better describes the building's new focus as a dual language immersion and English learner middle school. Now therefore be it resolved that the building at 330 East Dominion Boulevard, Columbus, Ohio, 43214, formerly known as Dominion Middle School, be renamed the World Language Middle School effective on July 1st, 2021 for the 2021-2022 school year. And be it further resolved that the superintendent and treasurer are hereby authorized to take all steps necessary to implement this resolution.
Second.
I move.
Sorry.
Okay, I don't know if I've moved yet. I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Member Brown?
Thank you. Just very quickly. I noticed early when our superintendent mentioned this name change, she said New World Language Middle School. I know that she wasn't referring to New World, but that the school is new. Just now, as Carol read this, she said the World Language Middle School. And I just want to be crystal clear that we do not have the word new or the word the as part of the name of the school. That is simply 4 words, World Language Middle School. Correct?
You're correct. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for that.
Vice President Reyes.
Thank you, President Adair. Just since we were talking, Board Member Beckley mentioned earlier about a new way of doing business as a district. Just I wanted to kind of give a very brief history. This was something that was brought about a few years ago from board members being contacted, going out into the community, listening to our parents from the Spanish immersion school, from the international school, from Eco Kenwood, from all of our language schools, and hearing them about their concerns, about their middle school schoolers going straight from, actually skipping, going from a K6 at K8 directly into a high school environment from 612 when we had the previous makeup. So this is something that I know Board Member Cole and I have been around for a while, waiting for this to happen. There was a lot of meetings. There was a lot of back and forth. The vote passed. Many of our current members were there present when they heard the yells of joy from our parents, our teachers, our administrators about the excitement of the school. So I am extremely excited that we are so much closer to seeing this into fruition. It's been a while since we've opened new schools, not including the Dominion that's been obviously moved in refurbished, but this is completely new concept, new school, directly in response to our not only our parents, but our students. We heard a lot of our students talking about their desire to have this, and then also our district desire to ensure that we have a true multilingual program from K through 12. Makes us unique from a lot of the districts, actually many of the districts in the United States. When we're looking for other models that are similar to us, a lot of times we compare ourselves to other districts, and a lot of people will talk about what we lack. What we don't lack today is the fact that we have a fully multilingual K through 12 curriculum that we look forward to spearheading, being the leader in other districts in this country, looking at us, and very, very excited to have my Latina cohort, Senora Sandra, the Senora as Santos as one of our leaders, seeing her grow up in the district. Many of our students know her, our community knows her, so I'm looking forward to our students and our community really seeing what good things will come out of this school. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President, and your comments are right on. And I want to thank you and Board Member Cole, because you two were leaders for this initiative and huge advocates for it. And that was before I think most of us were on the board. It's been a long time coming. So congratulations to you and everyone who worked on this project, including our families who pushed for it. So we are excited for that. Any other comments before we do the roll call vote? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Vice President Reyes,
Yes.
President Adair.
Yes,
That motion carried.
thank you so much. We have a renamed building. All right, we will now move into the consent agenda. This evening's consent agenda includes items 10.1 to 23.3 of our agenda. Are there any items that any member would like to remove from the agenda for a separate vote this evening? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Are there any questions or comments about any items on the consent agenda? Board Member Ragland.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I am looking to discuss item 16.3 that appropriates $1,400 to the Maybe Mars company in California regarding adult face masks for our staff members and students. I'd imagine it's 1.5 million masks. Here again, I believe that the bid language, I'm sure the bid language says lowest responsive and responsible vendor. And here again, we're spending local tax dollars outside of our municipality on items that could be purchased here for a minimum uptick in cost. I think the difference between the highest responding local economically disadvantaged enterprise was $7,350. And a part of my concern, as it has been throughout the pandemic and before, is that these businesses and their employees and ownership are paying tax dollars into our district. And when we find opportunities where we could do business with them, we're moving those tax dollars to gain items from other areas. I live next to neighbors who have lost their jobs through this pandemic. We've talked a lot about some of the challenges that many of our students are facing within the homes because their parents are working or attempting to try to keep jobs. We have businesses that are closing locally and have been for quite some time. And while this piece of legislation is not one of our larger pieces of legislation on the agenda, these are the types of pieces of legislation that I remind myself of when we say that we have a difficult time educating our young people due to the poverty that they arrive at our doors with. Because for what I consider to be a small amount of money, the awarding of this contract to an LEDE vendor provides an opportunity for a local vendor to keep its doors open and to pay its employees, potentially one of our parents, or as Dr. Pierce has mentioned tonight, potentially one of our students who is working to supplement some of the income that may be lost or needed within a lot of our homes. We do this quite frequently. We put these out and they go around the country, and oftentimes other entities are able to provide lowest bids in these types of circumstances. But in my opinion, it is more responsive and responsible if we use the taxpayer dollars that are paid into our organization to feed those taxpayers back with our purchasing of goods and services in this case. And here again, I'd like to hear some thoughts from our board colleagues. I think the staff has done a very good job of really kind of letting me understand why this is, continuing to happen. The language within the bid itself does not mandate us, from my interpretation of it. And I'm not a lawyer, so please, lawyers, speak up. But the legislation itself does not mandate that we take the lowest bid every single time. But the terms responsive and responsible allows for us as leaders to make some different decisions when the legislation permits, or when the opportunity permits. And so I am adamantly for protective equipment for our staff and students. My problem with this legislation is not with the protective gear that we are bringing that our staff so desperately need. My problem is with the chosen vendor coming from California, as our neighbors are facing dire circumstances in the midst of a pandemic. I feel that we should be doing everything that we can to buy locally, especially now. And I'd like to hear from my colleagues about their thoughts on that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I believe Board Member Brown would like to respond.
Thank you. And my thanks again and appreciation to Board Member Ragland for this point. It is an important point. We do need to work on it. These are questions that I've asked every board meeting about every purchase of this type. And you'll see in the questions and answers that many of these have been responded to. On this particular case, there were quite a few bidders, but the lowest from an LED vendor put it in 10th place. And we do have to follow the law about lowest and best and responsible, or we would be failing our responsibility to the community. But we need to continue our efforts to ensure that we have more LEDE vendors submitting bids. And we have to look at our bid process more closely to make sure that it's conducive to receiving those kinds of bids, making sure that we can break some of these up when we can. You and I and Dr. Pierce have started working on this. You and I, James, are both a little bit behind on responding to her and scheduling our next meeting so we can continue efforts on this. But I do see some real opportunities to make some changes so that we can really encourage more participation and make sure that, that there are equal opportunities. And so, thank you for bringing it up. Let's keep working at it.
My question to you, within the language of the bid itself, it says lowest responsive and responsible. Does that require us to, at every turn, take whoever has the lowest bid price? Is that the law that says that who no matter what, whoever's lowest, that's who we have to accept? Is that the law?
Well, I may be among the most experienced lawyers, but my role on this board is not to serve as the board's lawyer, and I'm not going to give any legal advice. We've got James Barnes on board to do that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I know you were a former Chief Justice and very capable, but that question should go to our legal counsel.
Yes, and I think this is an offline question. I hesitate to give legal advice in a public setting.
Any other comments from board members? Dr. Pierce.
I would just join my colleague Judge Brown in just indicating that I think our working group, as he indicated, we have been meeting. Hopefully we will meet here soon again, but we do have an opportunity to look at this language, to look at our process, to really redesign how we cultivate local business in our community and how we partner with those local businesses. I think we need to be really intentional about empowering our students to create business and then supporting our students and our graduates when they do create those businesses. So I echo what both of my colleagues are saying, but I think we as a board need to continue to do the work that's required to bring a definitive policy or practice to the entire board for us to weigh in on, as opposed to each time we get particular legislation, we're kind of piecemealing. How do we deal with this? How do we cultivate local business? How do we build partnership? I think we really, again, have to be intentional on our end, colleagues, so we can, as a board, take action.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Are there any comments?
Yeah, I am. My concern is with Mr. Barnes's response around interpretation of a board policy not being expressed publicly. Either we have to accept the lowest bid price or we don't. I'm not asking for legal advice. It's either yay or nay. And so I'm not sure why we can't get an answer to whether or not lowest, responsive, and responsible means lowest 100% of the time or not. I mean, this is for public consumption, and I would imagine that this is a question that the public would like to have an answer to, because we can talk about what we're going to do with the policy with the working group and all of those other types of things, but it's either yes or no. If we have to accept the lowest price, then we have to accept the lowest price. That's, and I'm not sure why he cannot answer that question.
James, I would just suggest for you that James Barnes, our lawyer, is absolutely right in responding that he can't give you a proper legal opinion on the fly off the top of his head, and that there's ways that he can provide the answer. But I agree with him that doing that, just now off the top of his head is not the way to go.
I'm sorry,
board respect that.
I apologize, Board Member Brown. Please excuse me, but with all due respect, you just said that you didn't want to be the board's lawyer. And so you can't have it both ways as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Board Member Ragland. Your concern has been noted, and at this point, our council has said that he will respond in a different format. So that's what it is, and it's been noted. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Are there any other comments about any other items on the consent agenda? I just want to highlight that item 13.3, we are awarding diplomas, which is always exciting. So congratulations to Ashley E. Clark, Christina Sue Ann Cockley, Maxine Gordon, Tiara Johnson, and Brittany Michelle Robinson for earning your Ohio Department of Education 22 plus adult high school diploma. Congratulations. If there are no other comments, then we will go ahead and have a roll call on the consent agenda.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes, with the exception of 16.3, on which I vote no.
Thank you. Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Oh, I think she's frozen.
Oh, yes. If you said yes to me, yes. Sorry, I was frozen for a minute, but I just heard you.
All right, thank you. And that motion carries.
Thank you so much. We are now down to item 24.1, which is board announcements. Any board members have announcements this evening? Board Member Brown.
Thank you. I just, as I've been home even more than usual these days, thinking about the season, thinking about, we've just celebrated Thanksgiving, but we've done that in a different way for most of us than ever before. We're coming up on a full month of other celebrations and festivities. And it's a time that a lot of people are very generous, and they go out and buy toys for kids. They go out and buy clothing for kids, and everybody wants all of those things to happen. But there are 11 other months in the year, and people need to figure out how to address some of these problems of poverty, some of these problems of folks not having housing or food to sustain themselves all year long. And that's what I was thinking about. And how do we promote that concept, if you agree with me? It's nice, and some of the shelters get bombarded with things this time of year only. And when kids need food all year long, families need warm clothing. And I think it's something that we should really give some thought to. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think we need to try to improve on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted the opportunity to share with the community that there is employment opportunities seasonally. These jobs pay $22 an hour. They're warehouse associates positions that not only are seasonal, but may even offer the opportunity to carry over. Minimum age is 18, but there are also multiple shift opportunities from 4 hours to 40 hours. If you have any interest in this opportunity at all, the phone number to call is 614-857-1811. That is again 614-857-1811. 857-1811. The organization that's hiring for these opportunities is the National Center for Urban Solutions at 899 East Broad Street. So please give them a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. And that's a good reminder that we have jobs too here in the district. We have several postings out right now. For example, we are in need of bus drivers. And so make sure that we have opportunities for you to join our team and have a career that's meaningful to help us give back to our mission. So, thank you for reminding us about those career opportunities, Board Member Cole. Dr. Pierce, to you.
Thank you so much, President Adair. Today is Giving Tuesday, and that is an important day when our entire global community comes together to support issues that are important to them. An issue that is extremely important to me that was instilled in me from my grandparents and my mother is the importance of education and using education as a stepping stone to open up doors and to pave the ways for future generations. On today's Giving Tuesday, I am proud to announce that I have donated my entire first year salary as a Columbus Board of Education member. I've also added a little bit additional to get a scholarship established at The Ohio State University, which is my alma mater, to support CCS graduates that are stepping up and calling for change in our community. During this time of national pandemic, when we've had police violence and brutality, I have watched our students stand in the gap to call for change, to mentor and support younger students, and to really work towards making our community and our future better. And so I take great pride in establishing that scholarship, and I ask for our entire community to stand with me and to please visit buckeyefunder.osu.edu, project 23702, to contribute to the Dr. Tina Pierce Social Justice Scholarship. Again, that will be for CCS graduates that are entering The Ohio State University, students who are committed to advocating, mentoring, and working in our schools and community. I stand with you, I support you, and it's just an honor and privilege to keep the legacy of my grandparents, my mother, and my family alive by, again, honoring our community in such a way that you've honored me in this first year as a school board member, by electing me to serve you as your servant leader. And now I give back to you in the most incredible way that I know how, and to just give you to me, to give you what I do just wholeheartedly, and give all that money in scholarship. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pierce, and congratulations. And I hope it's something that the rest of the board would support. So in the spirit of kind of both of what Board Member Brown and Dr. Pierce said, I wanted to give some shout outs. I'm sharing my screen right now, and talk about how our community is coming together on Giving Tuesday, and has, and Board Member Brown, we do like to give in this time of year, but you're absolutely right. We need to work on doing it in July and in March and in other months too. But it's, I just wanted to give some shout outs. Can you guys see my screen, or did that go away? No, yeah, I think it went away. Let me try that again. I think I didn't hit share. Let me try again. Okay, now you should be able to see it. All right, so Giving Tuesday, just some shout outs. We have a lot of schools, and right now I know I don't have all of them. So if you are a school and you are working on things, or you're a community organization and you're working to put together drives, please reach out and share your photos and get it to our communications team, because we want to celebrate you. So thank you, Rock City Church, who was handing out supplies, including shoes, at South Mifflin. And we have our sororities and fraternities in the Black community are always so amazing, all of them, but a special shout out right now to Zeta Phi Beta and Alpha Phi Alpha, who were giving out food and gift cards at Broadley Elementary School. So thank you so much to our fraternities and sororities. Also, our Columbus Police, they were giving out, do you see those turkeys? They were giving out turkeys for Thanksgiving dinner to our families at Southwood. So thank you so much, Division of Police and our police officers. And also, we know that we do this a lot, the Operation Warm, which hands out new coats to our families. And they were at Cassidy, Highland, Sullivan, and West Broad. So again, just thank you so much to all of our community partners. And there are so many more. I know that I've just personally seen on social media other groups and other schools, but it does take all of us as a community, especially in this time of COVID and you know, where we are, to make sure that we are helping each other and we are going to rise up together around all of this. So just a quick shout out to everyone. And now while I'm still sharing my screen, I want to give a couple more shout outs. First, to our communications team, because if you haven't been to our website, you need to go because we have lots of fun news stories and we share lots of great news and lots of interesting facts. And so I want to click on this story right here because I want to give a shout out to a recent grad from Marion Franklin High School. That's her right there. Her name is Aaliyah Reed, and she's a 2020 Marion Franklin grad, and she made history. She is the youngest African-American female to be accepted into the Columbus Division of Fire. So congratulations. This is what it's about. You know, we talk about equity in our city as a whole. We talk about diversifying our public services. And right now she is making history. So congratulations to you, proud Columbus graduate. And we hope all the best to you, and we hope you make it through. We know you're going to make it through. You're going to make it through, and you're going to keep making us proud. So congratulations to you. Those are my announcements. Anyone else have any others? All right. Well, seeing none, the last thing we have to do is just a motion to adjourn this evening. No executive session, which makes us all very thankful and happy.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please.
I'm sorry, I missed the second. Who was that?
Dr.
Pierce?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
And Mr. Brown?
Yes, this was a perfect length meeting, so congratulations to Jen and to for helping us get here. Thanks.
You're welcome. Giving Tuesday, I give to all of you a short meeting. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, Columbus community, and we will actually be back tomorrow because we have a working session where we're going to talk about school safety, culture, and climate. So join us back tomorrow for a discussion around that. So good night, everyone, and have a safe evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.